With all these cameras and new bits of equipment coming out, all you hear about is specs. Numbers, figures, bigger is obviously always better. A couple of specs I hear thrown around is about color, and that's 8-bit 420 and 10-bit 422, and that 10-bit 422 is obviously better than 8-bit 420. And before you head down to the comment section and be like, oh, what are you on about? You know, obviously a 10-bit 422 is better than an 8-bit 420. Yeah, I know, I'm not here to disprove that. But the one question I am wanting to answer is, how much better is 10-bit color over 8-bit color? And even in the world where you can have Arri Alexa footage beautifully color graded by the best colorists in the world, beautifully put together, exported at the highest settings, but unfortunately uploaded to here, which is YouTube, and the compression gods just decide to just smash it into the ground and obliterate all of the quality, does it really matter? For this test, I am going to be using my Sony A7S III, the camera which I'm using right now to film this in 4K in S-Log3. I'm going to keep it as fair as possible. The only thing I'm changing is the color mode, being 8-bit and 10-bit. So ladies and gentlemen, pens at the ready, the time is upon us. Is camera A 8-bit color, or is it actually 10-bit color? So what do you think? Could you really tell the difference? Before we go any further, go write out your answer down in the comment section below. Was camera A 8-bit color and camera B 10-bit, or was it actually the other way around with camera A being 10-bit and camera B being 8-bit? And I won't be having any cheating, let's all be adults about it. Yes, that's including you. Done? Ready to move on? Sound. Let's go. Looking back at the footage, it's a tough one. Back when we were using my Sony A7 III, that could only give you 8-bit footage, and the footage, it didn't look great, unfortunately. And when it came around to grading it, well, it looked worse. And I always put this down to the camera being 8-bit color rather than 10-bit color. But if you're new here, let me tell you something. There's more to an image than just color depth, and also the resolution being the whole 1080 and 4K war, or if you're lucky, 6K and 8K. So to begin with, we need to understand the difference between 8-bit and 10-bit color. And I feel like this is the moment where I should bring down like a little, you know, pulley whiteboard thing, stick on a lab coat and get all sciencey. White light is made up of 3 different colors, red, green and blue. And that's how we end up with the channels R, G and B. The luminosity or the brightness of these 3 channels is then split into segments. And each segment for each channel is then blended together to give us that piece of information for each single pixel which we see in our image. 8-bit color allows us to take that channel and split it into 128 different segments. Seems a lot, right? But when you compare that to 10-bit color, that is then split into 1024 different segments. And if you want to go one step further and go to 12-bit compressed RAW, that becomes 4096. Therefore, in comparison to 8-bit, which is 128, it's pretty much nothing. So what does all of this mean? Well, in some cases, it will affect your image quite a lot, and in others, it won't. Let's imagine each segment, each section of that red channel is a step on a staircase. You can see them steps quite clearly. Now, if you was to take the same amount of distance, but add more steps into it, so let's take 1024 rather than 128, them steps are much smaller and harder to see, therefore making it look a lot smoother. And in videography, that is what we call banding, and that is what you can see in some 8-bit footage. Now, you do get it in 10-bit footage, but obviously because you've got more information to work with, it does become a lot smoother, and the steps are much smaller, meaning that your 8-bit footage will start to fall apart a lot sooner when it comes to color grading rather than it would do if it was 10-bit footage. And that's why it's much more important when you're shooting with 8-bit footage to get the shot as close to perfect as possible in camera. So if that is the case, why do camera manufacturers such as Sony still even bother with 8-bit footage when most cameras can now do 10-bit or even 12-bit? Well, simply because 10-bit isn't always needed. 8-bit footage is something that's been around in videography much longer than 10-bit footage, and as long as you just need to get the footage and do minor adjustments in post, 8-bit footage is perfectly fine to use. And because there's less information in each channel, because there's only 128 pieces of information rather than 1024, it means that it takes up less space on your memory card and your hard drive. And I'll be be honest, I use my Sony A7 III still for a load of shots on this channel, and when I use that camera I'm shooting at S-Log3, and I can see a clear difference between that and this camera, which is the A7S III. And as I've already said, I think there's more to it than just the 8-bit and 10-bit color difference. I actually think it's down to the color science and the sensor that this camera is using over the A7 III. And finally, and most importantly, can you actually tell the difference right now here on YouTube? Here's the clips again. Can you see any banding in any of the shots? Can you see the image quality being a little poor in one shot over the other? What did you put in the comments? Did you think that camera A was 8-bit color? If you did, then sorry, you're wrong. It was actually camera B which was 8-bit color, and camera A was actually 10-bit color. The difference I could see in my monitor when I was going through these shots is that in the 8-bit footage, the shadows kind of had a bit of a magenta feel, whereas when it came to 10-bit, that was gone. I don't know what it is, my Sony A7 III had that magenta feel as well, and people talk a lot about the magenta in the Sony A7s. I don't know what that's about. The Sony A7 III also had that magenta feel, but I don't understand why that would be changed when it comes from 8-bit to 10-bit and vice versa. Who knows? Let me know down in the comment section below if you got that right, and what's your comments on the whole matter? Are you one of the people that must use 10-bit color, or don't you mind using 8-bit color if you can? If you've enjoyed being here, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content, and finally, thanks for watching.